What's cracking, everybody? Zarfelros here, bringing you some Pokemon Go Battle League content. Today's video is going to be going over this upcoming Retro Cup. The third time this cup has come back, and it has changed pretty much every time we've had it. So, first we had the introduction of Walrein and Trevenant, and then recently we've also had Araquanid enter the fray. So, we're going to go over this cup in full today. Going to go over it in bits and pieces like we usually do, going over some of these rankings. As you can see right off the cusp, we've got Lickitung, Walrein, Frostlass, Trevenant, Altaria, Cofagrigus, Araquanid, some of the top Pokemon in the cup. So those are always going to be things you want to keep an eye out for when you're building your teams. And we're going to go over some of the top picks of each kind of, almost like categories. I always try to break up metas by sort of sections. So we're going to see just how all these picks kind of flow together, make the teams work, and then at the end, as usual, we'll hit up some popular and possible cores, and kind of talk about some core breakers potentially too. So first up, we've got the sort of weak to fighting but not Lickitung. It's like the ices and the anti-flyers essentially, with plus Snorlax, I guess. There's several ways to really kind of name this section, but essentially it's going to be, you know, Walrein, Dugong, Lapras, Abomasnow are going to be the primary ice types in this meta, and then Regirock is probably one of my personal favorites because it core breaks so much of the meta all on its own. And then you've got Snorlax is just like a generic safe swap, but also very very bulky. Good way to, you know, draw out a potential fighting type to Walrein, or any of the others, honestly. So they all kind of go together. I didn't put Lickitung here. It works here, but it was gonna be mostly in the anti-ghost. So I was kind of giving Snorlax and Lickitung both their own separate spots, but they do sort of fill the same role. You know, you've got your Walrein definitely, you know, beats the thing. It's Great League without Dark, Fairy, and Steel. So essentially, you remove all of those things. You know, you get rid of the you get rid of the Registeel, you get rid of Galarian Stunfisk, you get rid of things like Sableye, you get rid of things that are, you know, hard wall the Walrein, like Charmel and Ninetales. There's a lot of things that are not in this meta that allow Walrein to be better, which is why it's ranked so highly. So you can expect to see it in almost every game. But I don't need to really drove on a whole lot about Walrein. You know, everybody knows what Walrein can do. We're really going to be looking at stuff like, you know, I want to look at Regirock, because Regirock, you look at this, like, it can beat Jellicent, it beats Altaria because the Stone Edge is going out so quick, it beats Abomasnow, it doesn't really do well against counter users, Trevenant kind of hard walls it, and, you know, that's kind of one unfortunate thing is that Trevenant kind of ripped my first Retro Cup team in half, which sucks. But it can't also has an issue beating Walrein if Walrein can find a way to land an Earthquake. So, you know, obviously everything is going to win and lose against something here, but we want to make sure that, you know, you're picking things that have the best play for the meta that you're currently seeing. Now, one other thing I want to take a look at here is going to be the Abomasnow. So Shadow Abomasnow is almost in essence always going to be better because it has more fast move pressure and charge move pressure. It's got spammy charge moves and a decently hard-hitting fast move in Powder Snow. Sort of in the same vein as Walrein is usually universally going to be better as a Shadow. Obviously, if you want the extra bulk, there is an argument to be made there, but usually when it comes to things like that with spammy, harder-hitting things, you know, you're going to do better off with the Shadow variant. Now, you know, you can see here that we do still lose to the fighters. We still lose to Lickitung because it's bulky. Jellicent probably lands a Shadow Ball before we can land an Energy Ball. And then Frostlass is Frostlass, and it just wins because it's Frostlass. But you see, like, you know, in all these other matchups, you know, the Abomasnow Shadow is going to be hefty enough in its attack weight to be able to KO Cresselia before Cresselia can hit back with a fast move that actually KOs it. So, also one note to be made here is that Snorlax Shadow is significantly better than the regular version of Snorlax. So if you don't have a Lickitung, Snorlax is going to be an extremely good substitute. However, you have to keep in mind that it is obviously going to be less bulky now. So Lapras also kind of fills the same vein as Dugong, and they're just like those ice shardy kind of like safe swap sort of things that if you want to draw out the counter to the Walrein, those are probably good ways to do it because you can't get more ABB than that. So, God, it's already been 5 minutes into this video. So let's take a look at some of the ghost types, right? So Trevenant, obviously, the only thing that really wall it in this meta are the normal types. So that makes it very potent because there's like two. All three. I guess there's Lickitung, the Greedent, the Squirrel, and also there's going to be Snorlax. But aside from those, I mean, you got like Zangoose and some other like fringe picks, but for the most part, the Ghost types are going to dominate this meta because there's no Dark types to wall them. So expect a lot of Dark types, and that's kind of going to be the RPS triangle, right? It's going to be the normal types, the Ghost types, and the thing to beat the normal types. So it's going to be just a constant circle of what the heck is going on here. So, but I mean, you guys already know all of these Ghost types. You've known them from past cups. You know them from just Open Great League. Alolan Marowak recently got its ability to be Shadow as well. So if anybody actually has one made, they weren't gimped by the frustration event only being like a week long, right when Shadow Cubone came out. Good luck, because I sure as hell don't have one, and I wish it did. But we all know Jellicent from this past Fossil Cup. Cofagrigus is Cofagrigus. Frostlass wins against everything with shield advantage. So I'll just leave the Ghosts at that. They're actually pretty one-dimensional as far as like trying to explain their role, because they're really just they're the strongest thing in the meta. Like the Ghost types are basically going to dominate this entire meta, and then the things that really beat the Ghost types are going to be out there to try and beat them. But like Ghost Dragons, things, because all the things that wall them are gone. So anyway, we'll talk about the anti-Ghost decks, because that just happens to fit. So we've got quite a few of them. So there are a little bit more than 3 normal types in this meta, but that's really only 3 that you're probably going to see. So there's Lickitung, there's Snorlax, there's Noctowl, which Noctowl has the Shadow Ball, and like we said just previously, that Ghost types are going to be great, so why not have something that also has Shadow Ball, which is a Ghost type move. Ghost type damage is completely unresisted in this meta, except for the normal types, so it's generally good coverage to have. And then Greedent is just, it's Greedent, it's the freaking fat squirrel with more bulk than anyone knows what to do with. And then Oranguru is a new addition. So let's take a look at Oranguru real quick. Gonna hop down here to the... I could just search it. That would probably make more sense, right? Oranguru is going to be number 67, but it functions as a good anti-ghost because it has that confusion damage to put back out, but it also is part normal type. So it also resists the ghost damage. Now, some of these wins, right? Frostlass, Lickitung, Medicham, Trevenant, Jellicent. 3 of those things are on the top of the rankings page. Medicham is still super strong, and you'll see it. And then Jellicent, why not beat Jellicent? We love beating Jellicent when it runs Bubble Beam because we hate Bubble Beam. Altaria, though, Araquanid, Walrein, Defense Deoxys, Dugong, like... Deoxys resists the confusions. That's why it's able to beat it, because it's hitting back with those neutral counters. But, the other 4 are basically just going to outbulk Oranguru. So your mileage may vary here. But in general, Oranguru is a very interesting pick, especially if you're seeing a lot of ghost types. And then Diggersby is another one I'd like to highlight. And I'm going to try and use this thing, because I just built my XL Diggersby like last week for factions. So I would like to be able to get some mileage out of it, and this actually isn't a bad cup to do so. So you're going to be able to beat things like Nidoqueen, Trevenant, Mew because of the Shadow Claw, and any other ghost type really. Like Chungus does really good against ghost types. That's the thing. It also is able to deal with Deoxys defense despite taking super effective damage from the counters. It will be able to deal with it because the ground typing on the Diggersby resists the other charge moves with Deoxys. So Deoxys essentially either throws a Psycho Boost and gimps its attack, or throws resisted damage, and either way you're hitting back for neutral with everything. So so anything that deals basically ice type damage, water type damage, grass type damage, or is a flyer actually does a pretty good job at countering Diggersby. So Cresselia, Altaria, Walrein, Lickitung, Abomasnow, those are all excellent examples of things that you don't want your Diggersby to see. So if you're team building, try and keep that in mind. And then so we've got Pidgeot, which is another one of my kind of like low-key really awesome picks for this cup. It sits at 141, and for some reason it's got Aerial Ace. Now we're going to be putting... It's supposed to have Feather Dance. I think this is a mistake. So we're going to ignore the rating. It destroys Trevenant and most of the other ghosts. It's also an Araquanid counter. Cresselia can't outdo this thing because it basically has to either decide to take a Brave Bird or get gimped by Feather Dance. Lickitung also not really able to tangle with Pidgeot because of the resisted ghost damage from the licks. But, you know, again, ice types, bulky flyers, Deoxys, you know, anything that functions as an anti-flyer. And then there's Medicham, which you would think that it's not a loss, but Medicham's just so bulky it just outlasts Pidgeot unless you're running Feather Dance. I'm pretty sure Feather Dance changes a few of these losses around. But that's, you know, Pidgeot's something to keep in mind because Pidgeot is a very potent pick here, especially when it counters quite a significant amount of the meta. So last thing we're going to look here at is Munchlax. Munchlax is number 17. Works as a very good anti-ghost. And once again, you see that it picks up all of the ghost types. It also picks up Cresselia. It has access to Bulldoze. So it also makes it a half-decent Nidoqueen counter because it can threaten that ground type damage in order to do super effective and possibly knock out or do a lot of damage to a Nidoqueen. Now, so once again, Walrein outbulks it. Altaria kind of outbulks it because of the damage from Body Slam is not threatening. And then Medicham outbulks it. Deoxys outbulks it, which is kind of sad considering it's doing super effective damage back with the lick. So it almost seems like an inferior Lickitung. It just has Bulldoze. So you can kind of do what you want with this one. It's got play. I just don't know if I would necessarily pick it over any of the other lickers. I think that the other lick users are probably going to be better off for you. So let's take a look at this next piece of artwork here on my my wonderful slides. So I've got Nidoqueen, Cresselia. These are the anti-fighters in essence, right? So if you're seeing a lot of fighters, and I really hope that this recording isn't botched right now because my stream is running at about 2 frames per second. We've got Nidoqueen, we've got Cresselia, we've got Altaria, Araquanid, Dragalge, Mew, the two psychic fighters, Hypno. All of these kind of round out the essential amount of anti-fighters, right? So you're seeing a lot of fighting types like, you know, Machamp or other Medichams. You know, let's see, look at what other fighting types are going to be prevalent. I know Primeape is going to be one that you're going to see. You might also see some Hakumos and Komos because dragon types are basically, there's no fairies in the meta, so they can go crazy. Beware is another fighting type, but I wouldn't really lump that in with the fighters necessarily. It's kind of more like an anti-ghost, but you know, you see some of these. You got Surfetch down here too, so there are some fighters. So if you're seeing some, you know, these also have multi-functions. You know, Cresselia obviously being anti-ground, anti-water. Nidoqueen also just being able to 2-shield through literally everything that ever existed because of Poison Fang. Araquanid, as we all know, beats the pants off of Walrein, Swampert, and the likes of things like that. And then Mew is just a, you know, it's a complete wild card pick because it could have any moveset at once. And then we all know about Medicham, Deoxys. Dragalge is interesting once again because there's no fairies. The dragon type damage goes mostly unresisted in this meta. I think it actually does go completely unresisted in this meta because the only things that can resist can resist dragon damage are fairy and steel types. So Dragon Tail users actually do have a lot of play in this meta, and then having the Aqua Tail to deal with, you know, just certain things that take damage from Aqua Tail. I mean, that's about it, man. And then Hypno, we know, is a jack of all trades, Swiss Army knife kind of save swappy kind of thing. So not a bad pick if you're looking to put up an anti-fighter backline here. So not going to spend too much time on these, though. These are going to be spicier picks. If you want to go ahead and look them up on BB Poke, though, obviously, rankings page, just check them out on there. You know, not really a whole lot here to go on. But what I want to highlight are some of these spicier picks, like these core breakers, right? So I essentially took anything that I could find that basically broke apart the Walrein Trevenant core to some degree, right? So Ninetales, Kanto Ninetales does it very well. Having, you know, if it's a shadow, it's got Fire Spin, even if you want to put Ember on your Kanto Ninetales. That core fears this thing like no other. Litleo is sort of similar because it has Fire Fang or Ember, and has the normal typing on it as well, which makes it essentially anti-ghost. And it's also good because you're probably going to see Frostlass in this cup too. So Zangoose is something that is very interesting, having Shadow Claw, Night Slash, and Close Combat. Now the Sims don't do this thing very much justice, but Zangoose, that thing is absurd. Like, it loses to Walrein in the Sims, but a Close Combat from a Zangoose, let's be honest, that would probably almost one-shot a whole Walrein. And, you know, Some of these other things are really just because of the lack of bulk on Zangoose. Like, it has an incredibly strong move set to be able to break apart cores. Similar to Beware, they have the same typing, it's just a different nuke. So, whereas Beware has Payback and Superpower, the Zangoose has the Night Slash in close combat. So you've kind of got the nukes flipped on typing. So you could essentially use these interchangeably depending on what you want to really take out, right? So Muck, kind of pulling that one out from the Ultra League Premier Cup, where the Trevenant Walrein core is very dominant. It's got access to the Poison Jab fast move, and it's also got Thunder Punch and Dark Pulse, which make it actually a really good shield pressure kind of Pokemon to core break that a bit. Zapdos or Shadow Zapdos. I put this in here because Zapdos is the most fun. I don't have one built, but I've seen people play it, and I wish I had the guts to use the dust, man. Because it's so incredibly strong. If you give it even a small amount of farm, it just suddenly goes and flings off damage and takes shields like no one's business. And because of its moveset, it's able to threaten that core very, very, very well. Potentially one-shotting just about either thing on the Walrein or Trevenant with the super effective charge move. So new addition to the game, however, I'm going to put up Aurorus here. Or Aurorus? Yeah, Aurorus. So Aurorus has an interesting move set, and then it's got ice and rock type moves. And it's also an ice and rock type itself. So it does have to be careful about the Seed Bomb from Trevenant and Earthquakes from Walrein. But aside from that, like, Weather Ball Ice, Powder Snow, and it has Ancient Power, and it also gets Thunderbolt. So I would probably be running it with Weather Ball and Thunderbolt, if I'm being honest. That gives it both types of moves similar to the Muck to be able to hit that core back. So a very interesting team will probably come out from somebody about this thing. I don't have one built, so it won't be me, but I certainly wish it were because it's a very interesting pick. And then Cast Form is going to be another effective core breaker to the Walrein Trevenant core. Why? Because it has Energy Ball, it has Rock Weather Ball, and it has a normal typing and a Hex Fast move. So that gives it very potent moveset and typing to deal with this core if it gets the chance to, for example, work on, for example, farming down a Trevenant. And then the Walrein comes back in and takes 4 rock weather balls, and it goes down as well, and that's the game. So it's a very interesting pick. Obviously, not any of these are going to be super high meta picks, but they're all interesting core breaking picks that I think that will do well if the Trevenant Walrein core continues to be extraordinarily prevalent. Obviously, it goes without saying that Araquanid does do decently against that core, but Trevenant can certainly put a lot of pressure with the Shadow Ball. So I'm not going to put it as necessarily a core breaker because it doesn't handily beat both things, but it does do a decent job at trying to do it. So worth mentioning. Now, let's check out some cores here. So some of these are very obvious cores. They're actually, for the most part, pulled straight from the Open Great League. So you've got Swampert and Whiscash, the Mud Boys, with a Flyer core. Very simple. Altaria destroys the grass types, as well as really just about anything else that really threatens the water types except for the Walrein. So that's core broken by Walrein. And all of these have kind of a core breaker to them. Unfortunately, no core is perfect. So the Altaria Mudboy core is going to be probably not one you want to play a whole lot unless you have an effective way of taking out a Walrein. But it's still, maybe there's a bunch of grass types you're seeing. Maybe Trevenant's mostly what you're seeing. That could be an effective one too, but you have to be careful with the Walrein. Now, the next one up is going to be the Medicham Lickitung core. This is an extremely tight core, and honestly, it's even tighter in the Retro Cup. So this is actually a very sneaky good core, even though Medicham's not highly rated. Very rock, paper, scissorsy, though, when it comes to the Trevenant Walrein matchup. So you do have to be careful when you play that and make sure that if you can, try and use another safe switch or something. Like you could throw Walrein on that third slot there. You got a team right there, and that's super easy. Coming up next, we've got the Walrein Trevenant core. As everybody is very well aware, this is going to be probably the most prevalent core in the entire freaking Retro Cup. So that's kind of my plan, is to just try and use things that are going to beat it. Hence that core breaker page that we just looked at. So I don't need to really go over these 3 cores here. You kind of already got to get an estimate, a good guess of how they work. Not really much to go over there. It's really just, one side beats this, the other side beats that, and you got to try and flip the switch around as best you can. Wall-Range Trevenant is no different. One thing beats half the meta, the other thing beats the other half, and they're core broken by absolutely nothing in this meta except for Snorlax. So, I mean, and also maybe some certain fire types that you may or may not see in the future next week. So, enough about that. Once again, you guys already know plenty about that core. Now, I put on the right-hand side on the bottom, this is a kind of a duo core with Regirock. This is actually the team that I ran to Legend on my first time hitting Legend in the Retro Cup back in Season 7. So Regirock is really only weak to the Mud Boys and Fighters, and now it's also weak to Trevenant too. So Trevenant kind of took this team and threw it in the garbage for me, but it's still a very good team. And Cresselia, I want to talk about a second too. Cresselia's ability to use Future Sight and Grass Knot, those two things across almost the entire meta are almost completely unresisted damage. So that's going to give you a very good safe swap option if you're looking to use something like a Cresselia or other anti-fighter. Future Sight, Grass Knot, Crest is definitely the way to go in this meta. Moonblast basically does everything Future Sight does, but Future Sight hits way harder. So, and then obviously we know Frostlass, if you give it a shield advantage or energy advantage, it just sweeps teams. So, in the middle here, I've got some core, or not some core, got some safe swap kind of options here. So most of them are of the anti-Trevenant type. So that's kind of, you kind of go with it what you will, but they're also good, very generic picks. Like they can flip a swap pretty easily. I didn't include some of these other core mates, like Lickitung obviously is another extremely good safe swap in Retro Cup, but I didn't put it in there because it's already on the page. So I put Pidgeot in there because with Feather Dance and Brave Bird, the mind games are real, and you can flip a matchup if you get the right call, or if you just, you know, happen to get some energy, you can also do it that way too. Greedent gets body slams out quicker than the Dickens, so you are going to be able to use that pressure and even manage the time clock to a degree, so that you might even be able to wait it out with enough spam. And then Mew is just like a universally good safe swap because it could have literally any moveset and the opponent doesn't know what it is until they see it. So that's going to be pretty much the gist of the Retro Cup here. There's obviously going to be a bunch of picks here that I probably didn't mention. You know, let me know in the comments if you've got any picks that you think are going to be good for the Retro Cup. I'd be very interested to hear what some of you guys are thinking. And then if you'd like to see more content like this, I will do analysis for all of the cups coming up. All of my patrons get early access to these, and then I'll be dropping them shortly before the cup begins. And then, you know, obviously shout out to those patrons as well. I love you guys so much. The support you've given me has been phenomenal, and I could not thank you guys enough for all the awesome things that you have enabled me to do by doing this. So that's going to be the Retro Cup. That's a wrap, and I hope everybody has a great Go Battle week because Fossil Cup has been atrocious, and I hate it. So, thank you guys. I will catch you in the next video. Bye-bye.